First up, with new tariffs, why some economists are saying you will never afford food again. Next, Kanye West attends the Grammys uninvited to say, "Look at what my wife looks like naked," and to showcase his new Christian clothing line, "The Jews are keeping from your family." We take a look at the other celebrities who competed for dumbest outfits on the runway. Next, why the deep state is pushing back on budget cuts by dropping planes from the sky. Next, man sitting in fanciest room you've ever seen doesn't know where the money is, and why he's ditching the military bunker look for something more upscale. Lastly, Pete Hegseth rotates the press passes at the Pentagon, forging a new circle jerk.
It's your daily dose of misinformation, pulled from a lately hemorrhoided asshole. It's today's Run Your Mouth!
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Run Your Mouth podcast, and I've got a lot of things to pitch you guys. Firstly, I've got the in on investment opportunities out in Gaza. We've successfully bombed and flattened the entire region, and that's our rubble. It was our planes, our bombs that created that rubble. We're gonna profit. That's U.S. first. We're taking it all. And if you guys, by the way, let me know if I sound okay. I don't know why every time I come back in here, it's like the new neighbor isn't just blasting music and running a construction company above me. They're actually that I'm working in the offices that are working on the rebuilding. Volume is a little on the low side. Someone else telling me it sounds good. I'm gonna pump it up a little bit. But anyways, it starts getting loud in my ears. Is that still quiet? The live chat is the production company on the show. Is that better, or is that too harsh now? It sounds harsh in my ears, but you know what? I can lower my cans, and we'll just go, because I was out here. I was pitching. I was trying to get people involved. Firstly, we got merch now. And go buy stuff. Everything you purchase, it's $5 to Run Your Mouth Enterprises. Everything else goes to the little kids in China. You know, they deserve their cut as well. So they're working their little hands. They should make their money. They should make their money. So little Chinese kids, they get their cut. The printing shop that throws the thing on and does the drop shit takes its cut. And then I make $5 for the designs. And here's the thing. I'm new to the merch game. Like, these are thin shirts. I could go with thicker shirts, but then you'd be spending $30 a shirt. But if you want to walk around and piss people off and spread the message or prosecute Fauci, I think with shipping, it's all $15. And I wanted to try every garment before I actually put it up for sale. But then it's like 2 weeks turnaround time. And then I start getting all OCD and finicky. Like, I got mugs with the original Run Your Mouth logo. Is that centered? I can't tell. I think it's centered. But it's $12. So, you might end up with an off-centered mug. The same as the sound is finicky. I don't know. Is that centered? It's driving my OCD nuts. Does that look like that centered? If I hold it from here, is that centered? I don't know. Anyways, we're going to get into some news. Last announcement, because I'm not going to spend the whole show doing announcements. There's only so many announcements you can make before people stop wanting to listen to the show and go, that whole show's announcements. They do nothing but announcements. Porch tour. I'm getting out of the house. I'm going to be home 3 days a week podcasting and doing long weekends and probably losing all my money because I don't charge enough for tickets. But ROBSNEWSROOM@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. I want to knock out all of Florida in April and May. I want to go up and down that big penis that you got hanging off the country. Everyone's made that joke. I don't know why I got to do that. Northeast. I want to get to Providence, Rhode Island again. That spot was cool. I'm looking at doing a brewery up in New York. Just going to start lining up the gigs. We're going to do another run down through D.C. I want to do the Myrtle Beaches. I want to do the Raleighs. I want to do the Carolinas. And then we'll get out west to all the places that we did last year, cooking up some new material. And I'm really looking forward to Key West. If you can get down to Key West this weekend, you can join me drinking on the beach. I am looking forward to it. Rob Bernstein ROBSNEWSROOM.merch.com, I think is the website, and it's right in the episode description. You can click that link. You could have already ordered a t-shirt. And if you can find the link, you can be an early investment in the Gaza turnaround, because now that we've already flattened the whole area and displaced everybody, the only natural and courteous thing to do would then be to claim the little bit that they have left and seize it so that we can enjoy it for ourselves. But we'll get into that later into the show, because before we talk about all of the terrible things that Donald Trump has done in the last 2 days, bravado gone too far. He got off to a good start, and then he was feeling a little too much bravado energy, and it turned a little dark a little really quick. But what we'll do is we'll celebrate the goodness, and then we'll see what happens when we celebrate Donald Trump and tell him that every idea is a good idea. And then all of a sudden he starts getting a little bit too crazy. So the first win that Donald Trump had, and I appreciated him for this. It's hold on, I gotta untangle a cord so I can move around a little bit. Hopefully I don't now yank everything off my table. So DEI hires has become the new global warming. It's a funnier one. It's a funnier one that every time anything goes wrong for Donald Trump to go, hey, we haven't gotten rid of all the DEI hires. So you had that plane exploded. I mean, female pilot in a helicopter. I don't know who decided to trust her in the helicopter. Military helicopter. That seems even more dangerous. And not even a fake trans person who's actually a dude and can handle it. It was a full woman, and we couldn't even get all the details on this lady because they decided to scrub her social media handles for a little bit. But in a hilarious fashion, plane explodes. People start getting upset at Donald Trump. He's there for all of 2 days, and they want to pretend that this is because of his budget cuts. Look, the budget cuts that Donald Trump has instituted is already making planes drop out of the sky. And so Donald Trump turns around and he goes, no, that's a DEI thing. And then it turned out he was actually right, which is hilarious. It was it's because of my common sense that I know these things. And he threw it out there. No information to back it up. Sounded like total horseshit. And then it turned out there's at least enough information to say, firstly, when he first said, hey, this is a DEI thing, I was hoping that they would go to footage of the control tower, and it would just be like one of those tranny story hours. You go, told you so. But it was basically just as good as that, where it turns out, or at least it was reported, that perhaps there isn't enough staffing in some of these very important jobs of looking at dots move across screens like the game Snake. It's like playing a 1980s video game, because apparently they haven't updated any of this equipment, and you need a lot of people to work this equipment because we haven't updated in 1,000 years. And Pete Buttigieg was like, I'm not hiring you unless you're gay, trans, bisexual, or if you want to come in here dressed like a pony or have some other weird title. That's the only way that you're going to get a job. And so, at least as reported, I forget that people just listen to this stuff. I forget that people are just listen. They haven't migrated over. They're not watching the videos. You got to read the headlines for the people at home. This is from the New York Post. FAA embroiled in lawsuit alleging it turned away 1,000 applicants based on race that contributed to staffing woes. So, can I say for fact that it was definitely a DEI issue that led to the fact that it was a lady pilot, let's not forget that. But can I say for sure? No, but at least there's enough headlines to support the claim. And so, bravado win from Donald Trump, number one, was claiming that things are falling out of the sky because of DEI hires. Now, we had the next win for Donald Trump. He comes along, and he gets these tariffs going. And instantly, you get both Mexico and Canada. They're able to get rid of the tariffs for a month by folding and saying, hey, listen, we'll make good on killing less U.S. citizens. No one else pushed us, so now we'll actually start guarding this border, and less fentanyl will come across. And, people, they get worked up about the tariffs. It doesn't make good economic sense. It's not a good strategic policy. It's a way to all of us consumers to have to pay more for items so that select individuals within the United States can have protected industries and, charge us more for goods and services that we could otherwise have for cheaper. And if you just understood the broken window fallacies, then we'd all have more money to spend on more things. We consume more things and other people can make more money. But you guys all already know all the economics about this stuff. You don't need to hear it from me. You understand the way that this stuff works better than I do. But Donald Trump, he comes in and he says, I'm going to lay down the tariffs. Here would be the better way that he could sell the tariffs to me is just fuck Canada. Okay? I would like to see Donald Trump up there go, you guys are too much of a bunch of pussies to drink our whiskey anyways. We don't want you drinking it. You're a bunch of girly men up there like socialism. You don't like your truckers. You don't deserve our bourbon. But it took all of a couple days. And so Donald Trump gets more bravado points. He threatens these people with tariffs. They instantly fold and they go, okay, no more fentanyl. And now listen, I don't think Donald Trump's got the best economic policies. He's out here going, I'm a low interest rate, high tariff kind of guy. That's how you beat inflation. Nobody understands we need more money chasing less goods and then things will cost less and everyone will love me. I understand economics better than anyone. More money so that you guys can afford the higher price goods. That's how you beat the inflation. But that's it. He's getting all juiced up. He's got the bravado going because he bitched out both Canada and Mexico. Happened real quick. Trump agrees to pause tariffs on Canada and Mexico after they pledged to boost border enforcement. That's from the AP. Then he comes around. The Justice Department fires January 6 prosecutors amid campaign retribution by Trump, getting rid of some of the deep state people that were undermining him. He learned his lesson from the last time. I'll get to comments in a section, and I hope all the comments are, we can't hear you, the volume is still too low. Trump administration is pulling almost all USAID workers off the job worldwide, and the CIA will need a new agency. I guess they figured out that the thing called USAID was actually just the CIA processing payments to transgender people in other countries, giving handouts to all their friends and making sure that they got the money for their operations. And that was a pretty good name for pretending like you were doing good in the world. They're going to have to relaunch it as the Super Helpful Fund. The we like kids, but we're not touching them, but we're helping them in orphanages and keeping them away from priests that would otherwise be touching them. That's a long name, but that's not bad. You know, I'm workshopping names here. The Super Helpful Fund was probably a little cleaner than the children that we're helping but aren't touching fund. Anyways, and so you dig into the USAID, which it sounds like a good one. This is from the Wall Street Journal. USAID was established in 1961 to fund efforts to manage disease outbreaks and reduce child mortality. That's what you need. If you're going to start a government agency and get a lot of funding and make it that nobody can criticize you, you need to have things like claims that you're reducing child mortality, because no one's into child mortality. And then when people get into the news and go, they're getting rid of this organization because they enjoy child mortality, it's good talking points. Among other aid programs, it has been kept as a distinct agency from the State Department for decades, in part to avoid giving the appearance that the aid was directly tied to diplomatic requests. But then you start digging in a little bit to some of the payments that have been coming from USAID, and this was a Zero Hedge article. While we know USAID is a slush fund for all sorts of evil malarkey, including funding Burisma, the Wuhan Lab, and Soros orgs, here's a list of ridiculous projects to chew on, a courtesy of Et Rapid Response 47. So let's just read some random ones here. $25 million for Deloitte to promote green transportation in the country of Georgia. Sounds like a nice handout. $6 million to transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles. That sounds like a Pete Buttigieg product, just making sure that the interior design, I guess that means more tampon dispensers. I guess. I don't know. I don't know what design makes digital spaces, or maybe they're digital tampons, so that if you're in real life bleeding out of your vagina, the digital space better reflects the problem that you're having with blood leaking from your open holes. $1 million to Arabs and Jewish photographers. That sounds important. $1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica. Because that's what the American taxpayers need, is more LGBTQ in Jamaica. This is from the Wall Street Journal. An analysis by the Middle East Forum says $164 million of U.S. aid money has supported radical organizations around the world, and $122 million of that aid was going to groups aligned with foreign terrorist organizations. So he gets rid of the U.S. aid. People are all up in arms. We'll get into more of the specifics of what Elon Musk is up to. But, I have not been showing any of the slides this entire time. Where are you people in the chat to let me know, hey, you're not showing us any of these things? That's the wrong thing. Here we go. You know, this whole time, you guys were probably just thinking that I was pulling this all out of my ass. You're like, where is all these things? So just to showcase that these things actually existed. You ready? We'll do the quickest recap ever of all the slides that nobody saw so that people see that I wasn't just making this up. There's the FAA article. There's the Trump with the tariffs. There's the Trump again with the tariffs. There's the retribution thing. There's the USAID thing. That was the first Wall Street Journal article. That was the Zero Hedge article. And that was the Wall Street Journal paragraph that I just quoted. And now we're all caught up. Don't you guys, did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that you got to actually see that I wasn't just pulling all the information out of my ass? Because otherwise it seems like I'm just totally making this shit up. I got to put the headlines right in front of people. All right, here is a video from this new press secretary. If you don't mind me saying, better than the last press secretary. And here we go. Let's play this one because this is another thing that apparently USAID was going into. Roll the clip. Hopefully we'll have sound.
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than $8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The DOJ team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see significant savings because of that effort.
Is that was that a better mix on the volume? I was able to lower the volume on the videos, but if that blew out your eardrums, you don't know what the lady said. Apparently, Politico is getting millions of dollars a year from USAID, and that's the socialism I've been talking about, and government being too large, and the fact that an entire universe of prestigious bullshit is about to get washed away. All these people that were in on the circle jerk of government funds where they got to pretend like they were doing prestigious things that the market really appreciated, but really the government was just putting money into so that people could show up and pretend like people really valued their work, and the Fed funds would just keep pouring into these things so that all these people could leave college, report and do all this leftist liberal nonsense media coverage and have prestigious jobs. It's all now getting drained out of the system. And there you have it, Politico, as they're up there pretending like their information is so valuable. And really, they're doing good, honest reporting. What do we find out? The people that told you that the Hunter Biden laptop thing was not real are apparently being funded by the regime. And that's why apparently the Democrats are completely freaked out about this USAID thing disappearing. Firstly, how many people were just getting payments? People that are in uproar about Elon Musk and he's seeing all this top secret information. How many people just have payments on the books that are labeled as the top secret fund, and then it just goes to Nancy Pelosi? Nancy Pelosi wasn't actually that good of a stock trader. So apparently, you know, you got these Democrats who are in on making sure that they're getting handouts by funding transgender research in Jamaica so that some cousin of some senator who graduated college and studied gender, whatever, can have one of the 4 jobs that exist in that field and still pretend like they're living a prestigious lifestyle. Or you can get a job at Politico and get overpaid for articles that nobody reads, but still somehow influences the overall general political culture, because even establishments as prestigious as Politico are reporting that that information is false. Well, apparently the Democrats can't endlessly just fund progressive media that is going to criticize, you know, the right, or even things as simple as, hey, let's not have the entire world coming over our borders and an agenda to turn our children trans. But they're up in arms. I mean, I don't understand how you can bust an agency for having funded the Wuhan lab and then basically just pull the bullshit of, hey, we're going to absorb this into another agency and probably just do the exact same thing, and people just screaming, how dare you? You leave that perfectly good agency alone. And then in just showcasing more of the positive changes that Donald Trump has made and the reasons why the federal government is too large, SEC ousts top litigator who battled with crypto giants. The agency reassigned its head of litigation to a job in its office. I might reach out to Jeremy Kaufman, see if we can get him on, because his company was a victim of the last regime that was anti-crypto and trying to label different crypto projects as being, instead of, I guess, tokens or whatever else, actually being securities. And so you're bypassing the realm of the SEC. And the SEC, they got to make their cut. We can't have people just being so dumb out there that they want to buy a Hawk coin. We need somebody to save people from making investments like Hawk coin, because we all could have expected good returns on that thing. When the Hawk girl came to us and said, I have revolutionary, this is a securities product, because if you guys knew the returns that are going to come from this new technology that I'm bringing to the market, we really need an organization that could step in and protect us from that kind of fraudulent advice. But these are the kind of changes. I'm finally on the right side of a government change, and that big-time corporations got involved in cryptocurrencies, and so they decided to, lobby the government so that the new SEC would come in and stop just prosecuting and trying to get rid of the entire industry. But, these are some of the positive changes that Donald Trump has made that maybe made him a little bit too confident in all of his brilliance. Here's another positive change. White House preparing executive order to abolish the education department because we spend a lot of money for our kids to be seriously stupid. All right, and now let's go the other way. Now that Donald Trump put all these positive things into the world, let's look at some of the bad bravado moves that are starting to come our way. All right, let's take a second, though, and let's read some comments. The chat's going wild. It's the middle of the workday, and we've got 400 people. 400 people. I like this. Blind Mike, people are telling me that it's low, and Blind Mike is saying we can clean it up in post. We don't do post-production over here. We spend too much time fiddling with things, and then it is the way it is, and then we move on. All right. Links in the description, LOL. I put links in the description. Sport, I didn't tell you about the slides, Robbie. I don't know what that is. Blind Mike was telling me, hey, where are my slides? John Popick, regime change money, giving countries stuff they don't want, should call it USAID instead. Not bad. USAID. I like that. Dildo Faggins, as long as there's sound, I have volume control to change it to my liking. Don't stress about it. All right, everyone get in touch with Dildo Faggins to figure out how you can reproduce the Run Your Mouth podcast on your own end so that the sound is there. Seaman Gates, I thought you were using Neuralink. I have not. I've not been using Neuralink. Let's take two more. John Popick, if you bought Hawk you deserve to lose all your money. I agree with you on that. The voluntary liberal Hawk coin is the future of the Agora. I don't know what that means. All right, let's continue. Now let's look at some of the bad that Donald Trump's doing. First is he is expanding Guantanamo Bay, 30,000 beds. And here's why I don't like this. I was listening to Officer Hardass, and he was on Tucker's podcast, and he was talking about some of the things that they were looking to do in terms of cleaning up the country of all the people that snuck over the border. And one of the things that he mentioned that I thought was particularly bad is I guess there's a problem that there's only a certain amount of time that they can hold people for. And I guess if countries don't want to take those people back, I don't really get, I mean, I would just put them on the, put a parachute on them and drop them into the country type deal, or do what you did with Colombia and say, hey, you guys are going to take this or you're going to get a bunch of tariffs. And I think we should be getting rid of the criminals first. And like I've said, let's create a second-class citizenship so we don't just have to be deporting everybody. I think that can get a little bit ugly and nasty. I do understand that some amount of people probably do need to be deported so that, less people are incentivized just to come in. You want to try and figure out the nicest way to get all these things done. But one of the really nasty ways to do this would be to hold people indefinitely and to make it that people don't have to be charged with crimes to put them in places as rough as Gitmo that are outside of the United States territory, which I guess I don't understand why. Maybe there's looser laws when you're running the military bases and other locations. But the idea of holding people indefinitely without actually charging them of crimes or not releasing them to their point of origin, that seems like a problem. All right, if a guy snuck in, I guess he should have better respected our borders. But Biden's at fault for doing everything he could to invite as many of these people to come over as he could. And, a bunch of Democrats like Biden for a little while, a bunch of media. So, these people aren't entirely at fault. It's not like all of them were coming over here to rob you. Some of them were just trying to live a better life, and you can't really fault them for trying to take the opportunity. In fact, there's an American spirit to that. If I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to go on this journey, and I'm going to try and work hard, I'm going to try and live a better life. Anyone that did that, I can't fault any of these individuals for that. And as graciously as possible, let's send them home. Some of them, and let some of them stay as second-class citizens. But one of the things that we absolutely should not be doing is just holding people indefinitely and not actually prosecuting them of crimes. And the optics and the harshness and the bravado of, we're going to send these people to Gitmo, I don't like it. In terms of other moves that, are the outpouring of the Donald Trump bravado, Rubio touts Bukele's generous offer to jail U.S. citizens in El Salvador, but experts say it's illegal. Why are we even playing around with this one? I mean, El Salvador, I don't know why. I feel bad for anyone who ends up in jail. Now, some people, you got to go to jail because if you raped and murdered, you got to go to jail. But then there's other ones here like maybe you slipped up in some way and maybe you can actually be a contributing member to society. I think in the same way that women have an obsession with serial killers, I've always liked jail movies. I don't know why. I think maybe it was because of the dormitory I lived in high school had a slight jail-like quality to it for as ritzy of a private school as it was. It wasn't ritzy at all. It was actually really disgusting dormitory that my parents really overpaid for me to be at. But anyways, I've always been fascinated by jail because some sort of a fear that you'd end up there. I think the obsession and the reason why people enjoy watching violence is because we understand that society wouldn't have to devolve that much for us to end up with violence. And so you want to kind of understand it so that in some weird way you're prepared for it. And I take that all from a book of which the title I can't remember. Very good book though. Maybe it will come to me later in the show or maybe I'll plug it on another episode. But anyways, I feel like in some weird way I've had an obsession with jail in the same way. And I feel bad for people that are just stuck there. And so even in El Salvador, where they've rounded up some of the most brutal criminals and they've shoved them all into that jail, when I see the images of all these guys who are just folded over, you're like, we can't find some sort of a more productive purpose or something. I don't know. It's weird to have people that grew up in poor countries, ended up in gangs, and sure, they did terrible things and probably need to be punished and figured out how to be rehabilitated. But just spending your entire life following other people in line, crunched over in your underwear and packed into rooms, there's something that seems particularly cruel and not just ineffective, but isn't there just something that is better for these people and just better overall? And so anyways, you look at the images of that jail and the idea of El Salvador being like, hey, the same as you outsource labor to other countries, you can pay us. Forget you know how much you guys are paying your union labor people in your jail to lock people into cells. We shove more people into cells down here. We pay our guards less, and we've got plenty of space. You give us $6 a day what you're spending on shitty ham sandwiches, and we can lock these people up. And then for Rubio to turn around and go, guys, this is incredible. You wouldn't believe the deal I worked out. Anyone that we're not sure where to send them, we could just send them to the worst jail in the entire world down in El Salvador, and they'll just take them, and they're happy to do it, and it'll be cheaper. As we're talking about, hey, we need more American jobs, Rubio is flouting the idea of, but I can outsource our prisoners to harsher environments. And then here's some more bad stuff. I was saying my prediction for the Donald Trump, and some of it's coming true, is bad fiscal policy, better better overall governance in terms of not censoring the internet and having better border situations. And those are big ones. He got rid of the central bank digital currencies. That's a big one. Not having censorship of the internet. That's a big one. Cleaning up some of the government fraud and abuse that Doge is going after is a big one. Guys like Kash Patel possibly cleaning out some of the FBI that was just working against the president's a big one. There are some big ones. And I said, I was saying, I think Donald Trump's probably going to get us out of the Ukraine war mess. I think he'll be worse in Israel, but better on domestic policy, with the exception of pushing for low interest rates and some other things that might turn out to be very stupid. And so here you have it, Donald Trump coming in and seemingly maybe even wanting to escalate the Ukraine war. Here, let's read the headlines. I know a lot of you guys just listen to it. You don't know what's in front of you. You don't, or the slides can just be down for the whole episode. Ukraine war briefing. Trump demands rare earths from Kiev in exchange for aid. And so it seems like Trump's bigger new plan is we'll continue the war, but you got to give us some stuff. And the problem with this is that apparently, or at least what's being reported, is that most of the good minerals are already in the territories that have been conquered by Russia, which might just further escalate the stupidity of why Joe Biden provoked this war and said, we refuse to say that they won't be in NATO. We probably could have just done contracts and given them a percentage to go develop those areas and to get those minerals. But it sounds like Donald Trump at first was playing hardball of we're going to end this thing. And now he's more open to the idea of sending the resources over there to continue the war as long as they will sign over the mineral rights to us in exchange for the aid that we give them. And like I said, the bigger problem is some of the territories that apparently, as reported, have the good stuff are already in Russia's hands, which would mean we'd really have to escalate things to try and get those areas back. All right, and then last and the worst one of Donald Trump riding his bravado wave, thinking everything he says is magical, majestic, we're all going to love it, and it's going to make the world a better place, is Trump saying the U.S. will take over Gaza and relocate its people. What does it mean? And because Donald Trump, he knows real estate, he knows development, and if he sees an entire area that American bombs have already demolished and done all the demolition on, we should be getting the profits. And so let's listen to some of his speech on this, because he gave this is as good of a speech as when Nixon took us off the gold standard, and he just sold it perfectly. You know, he was going to set off, I guess, the next 40 years of being even more fiscally irresponsible. He was basically going to be defaulting on the debt, and he pitched it as that we had to fight back against the financial speculators and make sure that America could remain financially independent, or whatever his nonsense was. He really only spoke to the positive. And so Donald Trump, man, is he a good sales guy, and he uses some tricky words here, including we're going to help the people that are there, which it sounds like we're giving it to the Israelis. It sounds like he's trying to pretend like this is going to work out well for the people of Gaza. And so the Gazans are in a situation now that I guess we're admitting to the fact that none of them have homes anymore, that the northern Gaza has been so completely bombed, and it's because of our bombs, it doesn't even make sense for them to be there anymore. So now that we're already in this situation, of which we were involved in, and listen, what Israel did was reprehensible, but all these homes are already bombed. So let's be pragmatic now, and let's not let them continue to live there or hold Israel responsible for it, and then actually rebuild these people's homes. What we should do is relocate them to new areas, which sounds a lot like ghettos. We're going to force other countries to build 5 camps for them to live in, but they're going to prefer those camps. They're going to be better, and then we're going to invest a lot of money into this area so that Israel can now enjoy the areas, because really the way that anyone should be able to acquire real estate is by bombing the people that live there into oblivion, to the point that it doesn't make sense for those people to live there anymore, so that, you know, you can come around and claim their homes. But here's Donald Trump pitching his new plan of the United States of America taking over Gaza to clean it up for the people of Gaza. and to get all the bombs out of there and to secure the area and then forcibly send them to other areas to live in so that Israel can have more American money to redevelop the areas, but with very tricky language. So let's give it a listen.
I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time. Being in its presence just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them.
Let's be pragmatic. If the Israelis continue to be this shitty to their neighbors, we shouldn't let people be their neighbors.
That want to do this and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This can be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site. But the people will be able to live in comfort and peace, and we'll make sure something really spectacular is done. They're going to have peace.
So it sounds like also these new areas, we're not going to pay for those areas. We're going to force the other Arab nations to take in these people who were forcibly thrown out of their homes by the Israelis. And we're not going to pay for that, but let's listen to what we are going to pay for.
They're not going to be shot at and killed and destroyed like this civilization of wonderful people has had to endure. The only reason...
Isn't that crazy? Wonderful people had to endure being shot at, and it's bad luck. We don't even know where these bullets are coming from. Aliens invaded Earth, and for some reason, they just like raining bullets and bombs down on this one area. And so what we need to do is relocate these unlucky people who have fallen victim to this spontaneous bombing. They're good people, and they have a right to peace and prosperity, and we don't know what has been the cause of why bombs and bullets are constantly falling on these people. It's amazing to sit right next to the person who's doing it and not apply any of blame to them and just go, the spontaneous bullets and bombs that have forced these people to live miserable lives, the bad luck that they've had in this area, it's time to let someone else try this, because maybe someone else will have better luck if we give them the territory.
The Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area.
Who are the people of the area? You mean the Israelis? Is that what you mean? So you're going to kick... this is what I'm hearing. We're going to kick the Gazans out because they've been unlucky. There was that alien invasion that ruined the area, and for all the years that they've been there, they've been forcibly poor because of the aliens, and you've had the bombs coming down on the bullets, and so it's time for America to take it over and throw these people into a new area for them to live in 5, 6 locations that will have to be built by the Arabs, and they'll have to pay for that. And then we're going to put a lot of money into this area, and it's going to be wonderful, the people that are there, which I think is no longer the Gazans. It sounds like America is going to pay to redevelop the Gaza Strip for the Israelis, because just the Gazans have been unlucky while they're there. All right, let's play another video on the topic. Roll the tape, producer man.
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth. And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people.
Even Netanyahu's sitting there going, this guy's fucking crazy. Even I wouldn't say this out loud.
Very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area.
They don't just need to be in one ghetto. We can build 5, 6, 7. These are rich countries. I'm thinking multiple different ghettos, maybe even camps.
But you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die. Because Gaza is a guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again.
Why is there a guarantee that they're going to end up dying? Because the guy on the right wants to seize their land, and he won't stop bombing them until they're relocated to somewhere else. And so I guess we just give in to the guy on the right, who, because it's a given, he's going to continue bombing it, and it's his right to bomb it. That's the given. The bombs are going to come down as long as they're there, and we can't change that. There's nothing that can change about the bombs that will rain down as long as they're there, and so there's no choice but to do the moral thing and to give in to the guy to the right and move these people away so that they no longer get bombed upon.
It's happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want to go back? They've experienced nothing but death and destruction.
All right, I don't want to spend any more time on that, but it seems absolutely wild that Gaza is seemingly going to have been bombed into oblivion, where if Donald Trump now gets this newest plan's way, they'll be relocated to new areas with money flowing in so that Israel can rebuild it in its image. But you guys can get in early. Trump's Tower, the rubble will be turned to gold. Buy early. All right, before we move on to our next topic, let's take a moment and thank one of our show sponsors. Let's go with YOKKRATOM.com, home of the $60 kilo, only place on the entire internet where you can get an entire kilo of kratom for just $60. And if these topics depress you and you want to know that you're saving money on kratom and that you've got a full supply for the best prices on the internet, you can do that at YOKKRATOM.com. No promo code needed. It's already the best pricing that you can have. All right, enough of the depressing Israel topic. Let's move on to what happened with Elon Musk and USAID. He's cleaning up. He's finding out how many different things have super top secret payments to me, and he's cleaning it all up. So let's read this from the Wall Street Journal, and then I'll give some commentary. Very few in the bureaucracy. Oh, this is fun. This is going to bring up our spirits. This is one of the funniest quotes I've ever seen. Very few in the bureaucracy actually work the weekend, so it's like the opposing team just leaves the field for 2 days, Musk wrote on X on Saturday, which is pretty great. Hey, this is the easiest job I've ever had, because if you want to clean up or make changes to what's going on in this office, no one's here on the weekends. So you can just come in on the weekends. You can just go to the computer. You can access it. And no one will oppose you because they're enjoying the fact that they have weekends. And government job, 9 to 5. I guess no one's got to show up on the weekends. That's nice. They don't got to log in from home. They don't have to check any emails. If they're processing payments to themselves, if they're on autopilot, like one of those little pecking birds, just approve payments, you just need to show up to the office. You don't even need to show up to the office. You get to just do that from home. 9 to 5. You got to pretend like you've clocked in for the automatic payments to continue to reach all the people unaudited. And so apparently it's actually fairly easy to clean up the government, because all you got to do is show up on the weekends when nobody is there. All right. Next paragraph. The next one that I highlighted, to be accurate. Several of the formal officials said the payment systems includes information about sensitive national security related transactions, that would typically require strict security clearances to access. And so that's, of course, the Democrats, everything that they oppose, it's always got to be in the name of safety. And it's not safe for Elon Musk to be able to come in on the weekends and do all this work because we can't have people looking at this stuff. It's like the same as why Donald Trump shouldn't have been allowed to run for president again, because he took all these top secret files. The information on these computers should not just be accessed by people, even if the president wants them to access it. And so, therefore, this is recklessly endangering us. And now there is something very weird about a guy who is not an elected official, does not even have a job in government, and benefits from government contracts, being able to come in and access government information. There is an oddity to that. I guess to the extent that he's operating as a hatchet man only, I'm not sure that I see the conflict of interest, or to the extent that he's showing up and he's getting good results. You know, sometimes that happens. You work at a corporation and you don't like the way... Here's an example. Sometimes you might work for a company and you don't like the way that a product is being pitched. You think it's too aggressive the way the company's pitching the product, but they're moving sales. And you wouldn't pitch the product that way. You wouldn't be that aggressive about it. You don't feel that good about it. But the customers are actually really happy with the product and the initiative works out. And you go, all right, I wouldn't have done it that way, but that worked. And so in this case, if he's exposing the fact that money was going to transgender studies in what do we say, in Jamaica, or that the money was going to the biolabs, or that this was the CIA way of moving money around the globe and the way for Democrats to hand money to their friends, or for Politico to get $9 million a year so that those journalists can continue to make very good money and pretend like they have prestigious jobs just while they work for the regime and put out articles for the regime. You kind of can't criticize good results while the results are good. If they turn bad, then you got to go, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. Or if someone can explain to me what Elon's doing with the data that's bad. I'm not pro-Elon, and I think that this is odd. But while the results are good, it's hard to criticize. Here was from the New York Times. Inside Musk's aggressive incursion into the federal government. People are very upset. The billionaire is creating major upheaval as his team sweeps through agencies and what has been an extraordinary fluxing of power by a private individual. And then this was, I don't remember what this is from. Doge access to federal data is an absolute nightmare, legal experts warn, which I would like to know, what is the threat? What data did he access, and what is the threat of him having this data? And so this is another one. The scale here is unprecedented in terms of the risk to sensitive personal and financial information, said Alan Butler of the Electronic Privacy Information Center. It's an absolute nightmare. Which, once again, I'd just like for that to be explained. You know, often I get a letter from like a Charles Schwab or a Geico or the this or the that. It's just a nice little letter that says, yeah, we accidentally had a data breach and all of your information is on the deep web now, but you know, you can get a free thing so you can monitor the deep web as people steal and trade your social security number. And by the way, I'm pro secure data. I don't like the way the government collects our data. I don't understand what people are doing with our big data, and I don't think that it's in our interest. I don't think when the NSA collects our data, you just go, oh, who cares? So they'll have a file on all of us. Yeah, that's a problem. I don't like that. That's not good. But in this case, I guess I'd like to have some better specifics about why the person who the president has tasked on cutting back reckless government spending is reviewing the spending and is actually finding out bad spending and putting an end to it. And so here are some of the more egregious things that Elon Musk has already uncovered, which includes, this was from Zero Hedge, Musk reveals Treasury has been auto-paying everyone, even known terrorist groups. That apparently the people that have the job to process the payments never look at them and they just pay them out. And then this was from Kanoka the Great. USAID and Fauci funded COVID-19's patient zero at the Wuhan lab. Truly insane. Chief Nerd, let me get this straight. Fauci's NID and USAID sent over $40 million in U.S. taxpayer support to a scientist in Wuhan who was working on bat coronavirus emergence research, who has also become patient zero for COVID-19, and the completion date for the funding was in 2019. How do you get that information from a foreign person coming into government, reviewing the books and letting you know, hey, This is the way that they're working against your interest and spending taxpayer dollars on reckless things that will shut down the country and upend your life for 2 years and say anything other than, I'd rather that this wasn't the process. Or maybe there's a better way for us to do this, but I can't complain about getting rid of an organization that is in part responsible for what we went through with the COVID-19. All right. That was a quick chunk, but let's take a moment and thank another one of our sponsors. Let's go with FENIX Ammo as we're talking about what's going on in Gaza. You know, you want to be able to buy bullets without supporting the deep state. Every other corporation out there, they're selling munitions to the United States government. A lot of them, the reason why they can't advertise on programs like this, you guys all like firearms, but you know why none of them will advertise on media? It's because their big contracts are with the police, their big contracts are with government, and so as much as you guys would be good customers and probably are good customers of their guns, they can't possibly advertise here because they don't want to be spending money on things that are criticizing the regime, and that's why as much as possible, keep it in-house. Support the people that support us, that allow for media like this to exist, and the next time you're purchasing bullets, get it from FENIXAMMO.com. They got some high-quality bullets. They support this show. So, you know, let's keep it in-house. Let's build that run-your-mouth community. This, I think, is out of place. FCC transcripts of Harris' 60 Minutes interview, which they did. You know, as we exposed that Politico is being paid by the United States government, 60 Minutes was trying to cover for the fact that Kamala Harris can't actually speak like a human being. They would ask her simple questions, things that a second grader would know, and she'd have to say, hey, we got to pause here for a second so I can ask that person, hey, my earpiece isn't working. You mind repeating that so whoever's within my earpiece can repeat an answer for me? And so apparently they got to release it. And so, of course, who on God's earth would actually be upset about this information coming out? You've got news organizations working in cahoots with the government, trying to help create propaganda pieces so that certain people will be elected instead of others. You'd think any honest person would want this information. And you would say, yes, release this transcript. And so, of course, Democratic FCC Commissioner Anna Gomez called the commission's request for the 60 Minutes material, which, once again, that would be on the side of transparency. That would be on the side of us having information that should be available to us. She sat down for an interview. 60 Minutes decided to censor the content to make it look a little bit better for her. And now you've got the Democratic FCC Commissioner, of course, saying a retaliatory move by the government against broadcasters whose content or coverage is perceived to be unfavorable, which is a hell of a spin on the thing. That actually hearing Kamala Harris in her own words is clearly retaliatory because anyone who actually sees what Kamala Harris has to say and what 60 Minutes had to do for cover for her would all realize, oh my God, is it lucky that she did not become president? And it's retaliatory in order for us to actually even get the information that is true. All right, now let's change topics here. And we had some good congressional and senatorial hearings last week as they try and get Kash approved and they try and get Tulsi Gabbard approved. I guess they were all Senate stuff. And as they try and get Bobby Kennedy approved, which I believe RFK Jr. was approved. And so here's a funny moment, as we've done a bunch of serious topics. You know, like sometimes you got a friend who's not great at the indoor voice thing, kind of like me when I do this show and I try and combat whatever construction's going on over there. But you got, you know, people who are not great at their indoor voices. And sometimes someone has to come along and educate them about using an indoor voice. Well, in the same note, sometimes people get a little bit too carried away at these hearings. And Cotton, I think he's one of the more talented people on the Republican bench. But sometimes people forget to turn down the urgency talk. They're so used to the combative environment, how everything's an emergency, and they're talking in a specific tone, and they don't realize, all right, this doesn't have to be this formal. And I just thought that this was a fun little moment of Tom Cotton playing up leaving a room as if the room was under attack. With that introduction, let's roll the clip.
Let me explain what will happen next. Committee security and Mrs. Gabbard's security will escort her and her immediate party out of this room through the door behind me. Everyone else will remain seated in this room. The Capitol Police will secure that door so no one else leaves this room until Ms. Gabbard has reached her break room in preparation for the closed session. We will convene in that closed session in approximately 30 minutes at 1:10 p.m. This open session is adjourned.
A little intense. If you're drinking coffee, you must pour milk into it, not more than 2 spoons of sugar. All right, and then here was Bernie Sanders taking an L in this moment, and we'll play a little bit more from RFK Jr., but in terms of all of the great moments that took place amongst all of those hours of hearings that you guys didn't watch, here might have been one of the best moments where Bernie Sanders is giving RFK Jr. a hard time, and RFK turns the tides on the millionaire from writing books about socialism, and then saying, but I'm just a millionaire and I earned that because of the things I put out. Here we go.
The problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh,
protecting their interests.
Oh, I thought that would come. No. I ran for president like you. I got millions and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
In 2020, you were the single largest
Because I had
receiver of pharmaceutical money.
contributions from workers all over this country. Workers,
You were the
not a nickel from corporate
Bernie,
PACs.
you were the single largest acceptor of pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in the industry.
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but you have not answered, last question. You have not answered my question.
Okay, maybe you got me there, but let's move on. All right, and then let's go. I boosted the volume a little more. Maybe that'll be better as we come to the end of the episode. And gonna have to play with the board, but okay, these things happen. Next good moment was in the Kash Patel. And Kash probably did the best job at kissing Donald Trump's ass, even put out a book about it. I think he's on the side of the deep state that goes, hey, we need to basically have transparency on all topics except for the Israel thing because people are on to us. So, why don't we just focus on the one issue that we care most about? And other than that thing, we'll have some freedom. And the Republicans do have a great talking point when it comes to cleaning up pedophilia because nobody likes pedophilia. And to the extent that the Democrats want to go, how dare you talk about these topics, kind of showcases it's just a losing strategy. Anyone who wants to talk about transparency and trying to clean up pedophilia and anyone trying to take the other side of that, it's a pretty bad look. And one of the interesting topics is clearly the Epstein list, what happened to those FBI safes, and it's something that you don't hear government officials talking about all that often. And so Kash coming through with some better promises, such as cleaning up the FBI of all the people that went after Donald Trump, the deep state people with Crossfire Hurricane, making sure that there's free speech on the internet, and then, of course, letting us know what the hell is going on with the Epstein stuff that was covered up for. And so here's a clip of him promising to use more resources to, have transparency and let us know what actually happened here. Let's play the clip.
For what Ray, they stonewalled on this. And I know that breaking up these trafficking rings is important to President Trump. So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past and how we are going to countermand missing children and exploited children going forward.
Thank you for that. I do want to touch on the political persecution. I find it so interesting that they feel like you would carry out political persecution. Your parents are with us today. They fled Uganda and persecution from Idi Amin. And I think that with your background and given your family's history,
let's play one more Kash clip, and then we'll go back to RFK Jr. Here's the other Kash clip of a good moment. Let's play it.
And give it to him.
Fantastic. Here's my last question for you. Do you think it's appropriate for the FBI to try and pressure the largest technology corporations in the world, the most powerful corporations in the world, the social media companies? Do you think it's appropriate for the FBI to pressure them to censor the political speech of everyday American citizens to try and violate the First Amendment? Is that appropriate, do you think, Mr. Patel?
No, Senator.
Will you put an end to this, Mr. Patel, if you are confirmed at the FBI?
Senator, if confirmed, I will work with Congress to expose any corrupt activities the FBI has participated in, especially involved in the censorship of free speech.
Because we know from the court cases that have been brought across this country, and we know from the voluminous factual finding that was done, and it's in the record, that the FBI and other agencies of this government under the last administration pressured, coerced these social media companies to censor speech of everyday Americans on a range of issues, from the Hunter Biden laptop to COVID, to the Dobbs decision, you name it, they tried to censor them. The Constitution doesn't permit the government to do it. The FBI tried to get the social media companies to do it. Will you end this practice, Mr. Patel, once and for all?
Senator, I will always follow the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, someone's saying Tim Dillon in the background. That's a good one. All right, let's, I think I wanted to play a couple more clips, and this one is particularly good, and just realizing the extent by which these people are just lawyers and scum. Lawyers play a different game than the rest of us, and that they are willing, not just willing, they feel like it's their job to lie in the most aggressive way possible, and it's up for the judge and the jury to decipher who is and who isn't lying. And this is who you look for in a lawyer, is the guy that will show up and lie through his teeth in the most aggressive and compelling way. And so here you've got Schiff, who was responsible for all of that nonsense, or in part responsible for all of the Donald Trump nonsense in regards to him working with Russia. And he was out there on the news saying, I've seen documents that let us all know. I might be not having the language on this completely correct, but I don't think I'm lawyering it and playing it up too much. But essentially, that Donald Trump is in fact a Russian agent, and if you guys saw what I had seen, you would all be thanking us for the work that we're doing and keeping that storyline alive for the 3 years that it was alive for, until they started, switched over to the whole COVID nonsense and putting all their resources into selling that. But for years, it was the idea of Donald Trump is actually just a Russian agent. And Schiff was selling that story more than anybody, telling us that he looked at materials that nobody else has seen, but once you're made aware of, you're going to thank him for the work that he's done. And now here is his pitch to the American people, lying through his teeth about why Kash Patel is absolutely not qualified in the most dramatic and ridiculous way that you could. But give this man an Oscar, because his ability to lie through his teeth and sell things is pretty remarkable. When he finally leaves his, and he got promoted. He got promoted from Congress to a job in Senate because of the work he did, and because Californians appreciated the work that he did in lying through his teeth and bogging down our government in the Russia collusion story for 2 years. Let's roll it.
Finally, I would just say, we need to think about where we are in this moment. We have a new president. He's fired prosecutors who investigated him. He's investigating other prosecutors, or his Department of Justice is. He's fired inspector generals who might hold him accountable. And this is just the start. And as FBI director nominee, he's chosen someone whose primary qualification, in my view, is his willingness to say yes when everyone else would say no to whatever the president wanted, to say whatever he wanted, to do whatever he wanted. That's why he is sitting here. I mean, look at the people who held that job before Mr. Patel, the stature of the people that held that job, the qualifications of the people that held that job. And how can any of us think that his background, his qualifications hold a candle to the people who went before him? How did we get here where we are defending a nominee like this, who makes songs with convicts who attack law enforcement? How did we get here? And where are we going? History is littered with democracies that lost their freedoms and didn't notice it while it was happening. Let's not be one of them.
Your time's up.
Kash Patel is so ridiculously unqualified. How did we even sink this low? All right, and now here was this was making the rounds on Twitter. Here was the list of who's received money from the pharmaceutical companies. Bernie Sanders at the top at 1.9, and then just 2 below is Elizabeth Warren. And now I got a hot take here. I'm going to play this clip from Elizabeth Warren, and on this particular issue, I actually agree with her. And now we've got a problem here because RFK Jr., he is a lawyer, and he has made money suing, pharmaceutical companies or suing Monsanto. And there's if you've never read it or you've never listened to him, and now the second I reference it, the name is going to escape me. That drives me nuts. I wish I can recall words, but not names. It's a weird problem in my brain, and I'm just going to continue talking for no reason, hoping that maybe the name comes to me because it's right on the tip of my tongue. It's right there. Anyways, there's a good sales book. I think it's called Making It to the Top. Can't remember the author, but he's got a great piece basically saying that sales is a great skill. You can use it for good or evil. You can sell people shit that they don't need that's not going to help their lives, and you can basically be stealing from them, or you can have the greatest technology that will benefit people, and you can motivate them to make the decision for the technology that will better their lives. It's a neutral skill. Same as a gun is kind of a neutral tool. You can use it to protect your family, or you can use it to go kill innocent people. It's a neutral tool. And so the work that Bobby Kennedy has done, it's neutral. You could be like a patent troll type person and go after people who have not stolen your patent or are actually bringing good products and services. You can go after corporations that are actually have products that are better for people, and you just sue them for little small mishaps and you get rid of them from the marketplace. I don't know what side of that RFK Jr. is on. It's neutral, but there is a profit incentive in the work that he does. And now, if he's in fact taking down vaccine companies for bad things that vaccine companies have done, and he's profiting from it, that's great. If you want to be a lawyer and you want to take on companies that are actually doing bad in the world, and you've got a financial incentive to go and take them on, and then you make money doing so, that's great for all of us. There's no problem with that in any capacity. I do think, though, if you're in a government job that can influence those court cases, you got to pick one or the other. And now you might want to make the argument, well, everyone else is playing dirty. The pharmaceutical companies are playing dirty. The pharmaceutical companies have taken all these branches of government, and so all these branches of government might be working against the Bobby Kennedys of the world. So you got to play a little dirty to win back, and that's the game that we play, is influencing government. But I do think if you're and by the way, I understand you worked hard to build up a name for you, and that's a pretty good job, and now you get to basically just refer people to other law firms that will do all the work, and then if they win the court cases, you make money, and everyone wins there. You're able to help bring those lawsuits forward. You profit for bringing the plaintiffs to those law firms. You help build the credibility of those law firms by lending your name to them, and then they have the resources to actually go work on it, and you're basically a sales guy making a commission for finding them the people for the lawsuits. I've got no problem with that. That's good. And you might even say, you know what? I have so much money coming my way because of the work I'm doing in the private sector. I prefer to remain in the private sector. But then taking a government job that can influence the court cases that you have a financial incentive in, I do think is an issue. And I'm not saying that Elizabeth Warren's playing the game cleanly because she's got all the money coming to her from the pharmaceutical companies. And clearly when she's pushing things like pharmaceutical companies can't be sued because she's taking money from them, that's equally problematic. But on this particular one of whether or not RFK Jr. should have to divest his interest in lawsuits on which he can dictate government policy, research papers, or otherwise, and you might want to make the argument of he's just actually giving honest information over to jurors who might be re-educated to the fact that there's more problems in these chemicals, vaccines, or otherwise, and so they might think that they're less of just conspiratorial lunatics for agreeing with the lawyers that are prosecuting these companies, and that just a general exposure of the corruption might actually get jurors to realize, oh, I don't think that these pharmaceutical companies are just doing good in the world. and so that it's more of just a transparency take. But in this particular clip, I actually agree with Elizabeth Warren, so I'll play it.
What they win. So if you bring in somebody who gets $10 million, you walk away with $1 million. Now, you just said that you want the American people to know you can't be bought. Your decisions won't depend on how much money you could make in the future. You won't go to work for a drug company after you leave HHS. But you and I both know there's another way to make money. So, Mr. Kennedy, will you also agree that you won't take any compensation from any lawsuits against drug companies while you are secretary and for 4 years afterwards?
Well, I'll certainly commit to that while I'm secretary. But I do want to clarify something because you're making me sound like a shill. I put together that case. I did the Science Day presentation to the judge on that case to get it into court without a hearing.
Mr. Kennedy, it's just a really simple question.
Yeah,
You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're secretary and for 4 years after. It's just.
I'll commit to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No. I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies,
No,
and I'm not going to agree to that,
drug
Senator.
companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make.
By the way, she knows all this because she got the list from the vaccine companies beforehand of, hey, this is why it's going to be a problem for us if he gets in and why it's going to cost us a lot of money. So if you could read down this list, but on the same note, I do think he should divest because I think it should be one or the other. You can work in the private sector and you can do good and you can get paid for it, or you can choose to work in the public sector and influence the policy, but then you shouldn't have the conflict of interest of potentially dictating bad policy because you can make money off of it.
Easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You and I.
How many times have we heard that, by the way? Well, I'm just following the law.
You have said
you're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
No. Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS.
All right, I've had enough of this. But here, this is from the Wall Street Journal. RFK Jr. ties to vaccine suits complicate his nomination. Even with Kennedy foregoing direct compensation transferring to his son, there's certainly an ethical problem on being able to use public authority to benefit financially an adult child. So I guess, by the way, he then later did divest and say that he would just give the royalties to his son. which is better. It's still a problem, and then it becomes into a murkier area because, like I said, Warren's got a conflict of interest. How many senators or people in government are somehow, I mean, there was an entire Biden racket with his brother and son. That becomes a tougher standard. All right, let's continue. Lucrative deals. Under a consulting agreement with the product liability firm Wisner Brown, Kennedy has been getting 10% of fees awarded for lawsuits. He has referred to the firm according to federal ethics records. Let's bump ahead. Kennedy has also had a referral agreement with Morgan & Morgan, a law firm that has filed personal injury lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies, including the makers of popular diabetes and weight loss drugs such as Ozempic. All right, I think I had one last slide, and then that's our episode. But before we call it an episode, I do have one more sponsor to thank, which is SHEATHunderwear.com. Promo code RYM for 20% off. The greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. I'm going to be out in Key West enjoying the sun, and I could not get through Key West heat, be doing shows with all that ball sweat and friction between my legs. And so that's why I always pack my Sheath underwear to make sure that I got smooth, chafe-free motion between my fat thighs. SHEATHunderwear.com, promo code RYM, 20% off, the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. Kenneth said, I did these backwards. All right, that's our episode. We'll do Sheath on the first one. I won't even count that as an ad placement, but I do love their underwear, and you guys should purchase it. And you know what else you should purchase? Get your Fauci shirts in the episode description. RobBernsteinMerch.com. You don't do the www because I don't understand how web forwarding works. And if you www, you ain't going to go nowhere. But if you just do RobBernsteinMerch.com, you'll be there. And then, of course, as I said, we're getting back to some porch tour action. If you got porches, email me, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. Now, I got a couple things here. I love playing people's porches. I look forward to doing your porch. Don't email me like, hey, can we do this area if you don't have a yard? Like, have a place to do it. The conceptual, we game to do it like that, you got to have a spot. You got to be like, hey, I live here and I got a yard. That's all we need. We need a yard. 40 to 50 people are showing up. It's not chaotic. We hang out. I do a show for about an hour and a half. People hang out for a little bit, drink beers. We put out a garbage bag. People clean up the mess. They're all adults. Let me know weather problems. Like we one time played Vegas in August and it was 110 degrees. That's a mistake. So let me know. Hey, I'm in this area of Florida. We're good June, May, and then again September, October. I don't live there. I don't know if you get tornadoes in the middle of May. I don't need to get off a plane and then you'd be like, why'd you do this in May? It's tornado season. We're going to have to do this from the bunker. I won't know that information. So just shoot me an email. robsnewsroom@gmail.com. I got a great backyard. I got friends that would be into this. Here's the area and here's the good seasons. And I am going to, I'm going to make things happen. All right, let's take a couple of comments and then that is our show. You know what? Maybe I'll take one phone call. It's been a long episode. Am I even set up for calls? We can try it. Here's the number. I might be able to take a call and I'll read a couple comments, but if, maybe I'll take one or two calls. Banners. Yeah, banners. There you go. Taking calls. 203-340-1028. Once again, that is 203-340-1028. And I will take a couple of comments in the meantime. Fran O'Livin. Rob, tits or ass? Kind of an ass, man. Voluntary liberal. This is your chance, John. Go ahead and call in. It is your chance. Junior, volcano season in Hawaii is nice. Fair enough. Justin Ham, is the cost on your website? Cost of what? For Porch Tour? There's no, hold on one second. I got you on the line. There's no cost for Porch Tour. I just charge people for tickets. We usually keep them to about $20. You might have to go up this year because, everyone's charging more for everything. So it's tough to make any dough on a $20 ticket before the airline gets their cut. The cab guy gets his cut. Anyways, you don't have to pay anything unless you want to make it private for just your friends, which in the past, it's been like $1,000 for privates if you want to do it that way. So it's one or the other. All right, anyways, we got a caller on the line. How we doing, good sir? Who we got?
Robbie, what's good, brother? It's John Popek.
Oh, nice to have you on the show. How you doing, my friend?
Let me say, long-time listener, first-time caller. I know you love hearing that.
I do. That's it's nice to hear. What's on your mind, Mr. John? What brings you to the show?
Oh, no, man. Just I've been loving those congressional hearings. I love your point with that RFK one. I do agree that's. I mean, it's always fishy when they do that. Oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, but they won't specifically answer the question. But you're right. He should really divest from those because he can easily set up any policy he wants, any law he wants. Then immediately turn around and start suing those people for, millions and millions of dollars. I love that he would set up stuff to mess with the drug manufacturers, but I don't like that he could potentially stop them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's like you're doing good in the world. If you want to just sue vaccine manufacturers, you can. But he was also being very shady there in the way that he was not answering. And it goes on longer with the, I won't say that I won't sue them. Well, I'm not saying you can't sue them. I'm just saying while you got the government job, you can't sue them. And he was doing a good job with that trickery. Jamie Johnson coming in with the other side of this saying, let's pretend that Rob did not agree with Pocahontas. But that's why we got the callers to call in and go, hey, Rob, you're really smart, and I agree with what you had to say. So I appreciate you, Mr. John. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns?
No, just want to say, I know you always ask where you meet people, how you know their names. We met when you filmed your special. I was the goofball that ran up into you between the two specials and say, hey, I'm from Chicago. Just came out to see you, blah, blah, blah. So.
And I'm sure I said, thank you so much for coming out and saying hi, and please don't talk to me right now. That's probably what I said. Is that what I said?
No, you just said, hey, always great to put a face to a name, but I could tell you were obviously about to run into the second special, so didn't hurt. Just figured out, put a face to a name for you. But
there you go. Well, thanks for coming out.
With Dave and.
Thanks for coming out from Chicago for that special taping. That late show went well, and if nobody's seen it, you can still catch it on my YouTube channel. It is free. All right. Anything else? If not, I'm going to take another call.
No, you're good, man. We'll talk.
All right, later, buddy. All right, I'll read a couple more comments, take a couple more calls if anyone else wants to call in. Voluntary liberal. John is a little quiet. You may want to turn him up. Oh, okay. Good intel. That's actually easy to do. I got to figure out the mixer because the way I'm hearing things are a lot different than the way it's actually coming through. Particularly the board sound on audio is it doesn't matter. You guys don't care about this. Junior, Robbie was on edge during the special filming, during the first show. Not the second one. The second one, I relaxed and we caught some magic. I also do all of the crew work, take all of the tickets, monitor everything, and do the actual shows. So there's a lot going on, but typically after I'm done porching, I have a whiskey and hang out with everybody. Evil Fandango, I want RFK to get rid of the fats. All right, that's a good one. All right, last comment, and then we're calling it an episode. Runaway Slav. Robbie the Jew complaining about weather seems like a whole setup because, Jews. Always insightful from Runaway Slav. All right, that is our episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week, Wednesday, with another episode. And my personal website will be up soon, so we'll have the leftover call-in show coming your way shortly. That is it. Thank you for hanging out with us. Back Wednesday.